All right, so real quick, I want to go ahead and give you guys some updates and clarification on the gun PC. So a while back, I had went and I picked up a PC, started doing some mobile PC tech stuff, and I had brought a PC back into the garage, meeting up with a sketchy customer, and you can watch that video to get all the exact details. But I met up with a sketchy customer, got the computer, just everything was just fishy about it, and I should have known better. And when I brought the PC back home, I let it sit for a little bit because I figured the guy was gonna abandon it, went through the whole abandoned property laws and the way that works in my state. And after 30 days, if they have no intent to reclaim the property, you become the owner of it as long as you've made reasonable attempts to have them come and pick up their property. Well, he ignored me, he ghosted me, that's fine. So after the PC sat there for about, I think it was 45 days. I think I waited a little more than that. After the PC sat, I dived into it. And when I dove into it, the specs was nothing great. It was an AMD FX CPU. I think it was the 8320, some DOM plat memories, but a pretty decent case. It had a 1 TB SSD, but then when I went to go open it up because I heard something rattling, there was a gun in the PC. So I had to bring it back to law enforcement, and they wound up taking the PC, the gun, and all that type of stuff. So I want to go ahead and clarify a lot of questions that a lot of people have, not dive into this too deep, and just kind of give you just my opinions, my thoughts on it, and hopefully put to rest some of the questions that I have. So let's get started with this. So first things first, this is not legal advice. Everything I did in that video was just based upon my experience as prior law enforcement and just how we do things in my area. A lot of people may not agree with it, which is fine. Every area, every state is different. Follow your state's laws, follow your state's guidelines, and protect yourself. So the first things first I want to address is the whole magazine thing. Yes, I called it a magazine. It's an ammo clip. My bad, my mistake. So moving on from that, the other question that people kept on bringing up was that I shouldn't have touched or handled the weapon. Number one, I needed to make sure that thing wasn't loaded. I was not going to transport, and I'll talk about the whole transport thing, a loaded weapon to the police department. So I had to clear that and check it. Number two, people said, oh, by handling it, this, that, and the other, you're messing it up, rubbing the fingerprints. Folks, I use gloves. And that's the policy and procedure that every agency in my area does. And that's how we practice it. We use gloves. So what do you think happened when I brought it to the police department? That officer took out his gloves, popped them on, handled the weapon, double checked it even to make sure it was not loaded, and then secured it in a box. And then when it goes to the evidence tech, and I remember this from my experience because, we used to deal with that, the evidence tech also puts gloves on and then, checks the weapon, then sends it out for testing and all that type of stuff. So that's kind of the policy and procedure in this area. Now, maybe other states do things a lot different. I'm not sure, but that's just me. And that's just our area. That's how things are done. And that was the best practice for me. I'm not saying go ahead and do that. A lot of people are right. Go ahead and contact local law enforcement. Let them come out and handle it. But in my case, because I'm still fresh out of the job, I knew people. I knew how to make this work more efficiently. Second thing, you should have called your local police department and not transported the weapon. Absolutely. Any other situation, if I wasn't local to this area or if I was in a different area, I would do that all day long. In fact, if I was doing a used PC parts hustle and I ran into the same situation, I would contact that jurisdiction and handle it. But the reason why I didn't contact my local jurisdiction was because I knew exactly what was going to happen. What they were going to do is they were going to come, they were going to seize the weapon, place it in evidence, and then it would sit there for maybe a week or two before the other agency gets notified and they come out and they pick the weapon up, or the local agency drops it off to that agency. So to kind of eliminate that and just reduce all the time and headache that that's going to take, I just went ahead and went to that agency. Now, prior to going to that agency, I contacted some contacts that I had over there that were working that day. I said, hey, this is what I got. I'm going to drop it off to you guys and everything. And they said, absolutely. So you're probably saying, well, if you get pulled over and you're caught in possession of this, that, and the other, I had a local contact. I know most of the officers that are working that day. So for me, it was a lot safer because, a lot of police officers know me. Now, if this was 2 years later, me being out of the job, I probably would not do that. But considering that it was only a couple of weeks, or actually a month or two being out of the job, I felt comfortable with that. Best practice for you guys, know your state laws, do what works for you. Don't do what I did. I come from a different background, which allows me to understand the laws and kind of make a better educated decision that works for me. And what works for me might not work for you. So another question that a lot of people brought up was you should have contacted an attorney, had them help you and all this, that, and this stuff. I get it. That's probably not a bad idea. But like I said, I come from a law enforcement background recently, so I knew what was going to work and what's not going to work. Some people brought the thing, well, possession, you're in possession of it. There's also another part of the law called malice and intent, and I'm not going to do a whole criminal justice lecture on it, but you have to have malice intent. I maliciously was in possession of the weapon with the intent to deprive the possessor. Those elements don't meet. So if those elements don't meet, you cannot be held liable for that. Now you change it around. I find this item in the PC, I keep it, I don't tell nobody, I get pulled over, I don't tell the officers that I had it or what's going on. Now my intent is to withhold the weapon, to be in possession of it. Now you have the malice, the intent, and you can articulate the possession of it a little better. Hopefully that kind of explains it a lot better. And then the other reason why I didn't contact an attorney is because to call one, I mean, they're going to charge you like a retainer fee, and they charge for that type of stuff. It's not cheap, and sometimes you're going to pay upwards of, $500 just for something that all you had to do was either do it the recommended way, contact local law enforcement, or in my case, reach out to the other agency and let them know what's going on. So, is attorneys good? Yes, but to me, the math didn't add up. The math wasn't mathing. So now, what happened and what was the story behind it? Long story short, it was stolen out of somebody's vehicle. It wasn't used in anything really maliciously bad and all that type of horrible stuff like a lot of people thought. It was stolen from somebody's vehicle. They had did a police report on it. The serial number was entered into the database as being listed as stolen. And yeah, they were able to identify the owner. There's a linked case for it. As far as the guy being charged or anything like that, I did not follow up on it. I just got the basic information. The way I was able to get the computer back was with the abandoned property laws that I practiced, like I talked about just earlier in this video. The detective reached out to me after, it took him about 30 days. It's about 4 weeks. They reached out to me and they said, hey, we have no reports of this computer being stolen, belonging to anybody, this, that, and the other, based upon the evidence that you guys that you provided me, which was my messages to the guy ignoring me, my messages confirming to him, letting him know, hey, if you don't pick up this PC, it's considered abandoned. The detective was good with that. They gave me back the PC, and obviously they keep the weapon. So what happens with the weapon? Well, the weapon gets returned to the owner. Done. And what if there was no owner, or the guy can't prove that he owned the gun? Well, then it gets held at the police department and they do whatever they got to do. That's a whole nother story and everything else on that. But in a nutshell, that's what happened with the weapon. That's the thing behind the case. As far as the guy, I'm not sure what happened. I really didn't ask about that. And the other thing that people kept on mentioning was that this was fake, clickbait for views, this, that, and the other. No, it wasn't. This happened. And unfortunately, stuff like this happened. Years ago, I used to do mobile PC tech stuff, and the reason why I got away from it was not because of this situation. This is the most worst situation I ever had. But when I would go to people's houses, sometimes the house reeked like narcotics. There was narcotics in plain view. There was one time that I went to the house, and right as I was getting ready to pull up, the police went ahead and raided the house. So stuff like that, I would run into, and unfortunately, it's like, I guess because of my prices, it attracted like the wrong type of people. So that's why they would reach out to me. After this experience, I'm kind of done with the whole mobile PC tech stuff. It was good for a couple of weeks, but then after running into this, the risk is just not worth it. And a lot of you guys shared that information too, that, hey, this is why I got out of it. And even reading some of the comments and viewers sending me their emails, there's been a lot of stories where PC techs have run into computers with illegal narcotics stuffed in it. A couple of people told me about inappropriate content on the hard drives. And nobody ever reached out to me about a weapon, but they did reach out to me other stories about, weapons and incidences while they were fixing people's computers. But unfortunately, I mean, it does happen. I guess that's the world we live in. I live a little too close to the hood. Maybe prayerfully one day I could get a little farther away from the hood. A couple of viewers said, well, you should have recorded, and you could have recorded the interaction with the guy. Absolutely. That is something I need to start doing more, especially when I do my PC parts hunt. I am working to get a in-car camera so I can record that type of stuff to protect myself. And that would have actually been beneficial for law enforcement. So I hope that answers a lot of the questions. If I was to go one by one, answer each question little by little, we'd probably be here for at least 2 hours, but I just chose the most common questions that people asked and common concerns that people asked, and hopefully address them. And to just kind of, recap, number one, know your state laws, do what works for you. Don't do what I did. I come from a different background, so, that worked for me. Contact your local law enforcement, call an attorney if you can afford one, or if you have one that's willing to give you cheap, free information. Don't handle the weapon unless you have to. If you call law enforcement, they'll handle it. But in my case, I'm familiar with it. Wear gloves and all that type of stuff. And mostly protect yourself. If you're gonna do mobile PC tech stuff, it can be dangerous. It can be sketchy if you're doing house calls. Now, if you're doing it for businesses, it's totally different. I've never gotten into that part of, doing it for business and companies, just because, I'm just a small tech guy just doing it out of my garage. But I think it's just easier right now just having drop-offs and sticking to friends and families. And I'm also working on other avenues to generate different sources of income. So mobile PC tech guys, for you that actually go out and do it, and there's a bunch of viewers that told me their stories that still do it, God bless you, more power to you, because some of the stories you've told me has been like, wow. Hope this answered your questions. Comment down below. Let me know any other thoughts, concerns, criticisms about that video or about this incident. Protect yourself, be careful, and always do your homework. Thanks for watching.